In this video, we will go over the dreaded telephonic interview, which most of us have been through in the past multiple times. I have for sure. And so I can share a whole bunch of information with you, and I'd love for you to excel at your telephonic interviews in the future. Alright, so let's get started. So first off, congratulations, because you've made it to the interview stage, which means that you clearly have the credentials for making it big in this new prospective employer, because your resume definitely stood out. You have what they're looking for, and now all you have to do is prove to them that you know what you have in your resume and that you can speak clearly, distinctly to what they're looking for. That's all. So the next obvious question becomes, okay, now that I have an interview scheduled, what can I do to best prepare myself for it, right? So there you go. Now you already know everything in your resume. You already have the past work experience and your educational background that stood out, which is why you have an interview scheduled. So all you have to do now is to go through what you have in your resume, read through it, make sure you can recollect whatever you have in your resume, go through it 3-4 times, and then think of points for each of your past experiences, especially from the last 5 years, the last 2-3 years for sure, so that you can elaborate more about your role, what you did there, and highlight some of your achievements from each of those past experiences, so that relates to what they're looking for in this new position that you're interested in. Also, another important thing is for you to look up the company on their company website, see what the organization is all about. Hopefully you already know what they're all about since you've applied. And then definitely look up the hiring manager's profile on LinkedIn. This is so that you can get an idea about what the hiring manager might be looking for, their skills, their strengths, because that's probably what they'll be focusing on, because they know more about that particular area. And especially if that relates to your job description, then focus on those areas, because that's probably what they'll be stressing more on. Okay, and yeah, I mean, those are a few pointers on how you can best prepare yourself for this upcoming telephonic interview that you have scheduled. Also, hopefully you have taken the due diligence to free up that particular time that you have allocated to the telephonic interview, so that it does not clash with your existing work schedule or with your other appointments for that particular day. Alright, now we are on the day of the interview. So few tips here is definitely relax, be in a quiet place, be in that place at least 10 minutes before the interview. Maybe you are at work, then you may need to find a quiet room or somewhere outside where you can take the call, where you don't have any disturbances. If you have pets in the house, and if you plan to take the call from home, then make sure your pets are somewhere away where they don't bark while you are on the phone. Well, I definitely have had to deal with that since I have a pet and I have to make sure I'm away from her. Also, make sure you have charged your phone, right? Because that's the last thing you want, is for your battery to die out when you're on the phone with hiring manager, and they'll be wondering, oh, what happened? And then you have to call back and let them know, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to charge my phone. Well, that's not a good impression at all. So try to make sure that you don't have to say such things. Also, check the network coverage. You don't want your phone call to get dropped because of poor network coverage, right? So I mean, these are a few logistical things that you definitely need to check off before the interview begins. Also, a good thing is to have your resume in front of you so that you can refer to it as you speak, and just in case so that you don't lose any points that you wanted to talk about or stress upon. All right, then one of the things is on the day of the interview and during the interview, what the hiring manager will be looking at is how clearly you speak, how distinctly you speak, how concisely you answer your questions, right? So focus on that. Nobody wants you to rattle off for 15-20 minutes, so that doesn't create a good impression, because they want to hear short answers, short and crisp, to the point, about a minute, minute and a half to answer each question, right? So practice that. Another thing is relax, be yourself, be genuine. Don't try to fake it, because if you fake it, then it's not going anywhere. So another thing is, what I have on the slide is, employers like to ask situational questions, which are generally of the form, tell me about a time when. For instance, they'll ask questions like, okay, tell me a time when you had to deal with a difficult situation at work and how did you handle that scenario. So that's when reality comes in and you have to think about what you did in the past and how, what you answer actually helps the employer think that, oh, okay, looks like this person has a good handle over her head, and this individual seems very confident in her answers, and I think I need to hire her. So you need to make sure that you have prepared well so that the employer gets that positive impression of you. Another thing is, be confident in your answers. Don't make things up, don't stutter. Also, it's always okay if you don't know an answer, just be honest and tell them, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't answer this question. They're okay with that. Nobody knows everything, right? So a few misses are okay, just be honest about it. As long as you're genuine and you're able to highlight your strengths, that's all that matters. Just impress them with your strengths, And then a few final tips for this particular telephonic interview. Like I said, be clear in your answers. Don't speak too fast. If you speak too fast, it creates a bad impression because it's kind of a sign of not being too confident. It's a sign of nervousness. So you need to be clear. You need to speak at a slower pace and make sure you're heard. You're loud enough. Don't speak too softly. If you speak softly, that's not a sign of confidence at all. And it's okay if you don't know something. Like I said, just be honest. And another important thing is to make sure you have questions, follow-up questions to ask towards the end of the interview, or even during the interview stage or interview process while on the phone with this interviewer. It definitely shows that you've done your research and you have some questions and that you're genuinely interested in the position and the role. And follow up with a thank you email letting them know that you appreciate them taking time out of their schedule to talk to you, right? So definitely do that. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful enough and you're able to take advantage of these pointers and make the best in your next telephonic interview. And I'd love to hear how it went. All right, thank you so much. See you soon.